My brother stood in the middle of the conference room, grinning at me like he'd already won the Super Bowl. He said, "Face it, you'll always be the worker bee. I'm the partner now." 3 weeks later, I walked into that same room as the new owner of the company. And the very first call I made was to HR, and I'm 32, been in digital marketing for almost a decade. I'm not the flashiest guy in the room. I'm the one who actually runs the room while the flashy guy takes the credit. I joined Meridian Creative Group 6 years ago, when it was barely 30 people. I helped build out their entire client services division, brought in 4 of their top 10 accounts, and quietly became the backbone of an operation that most people assumed ran itself. 2 years ago, I made what I now consider the second worst decision of my life. I vouched for my younger brother to get a job at Meridian. He was 28, charismatic, good with people, and had just gotten laid off from a startup. My boss, the owner and founder, trusted my judgment. He's a natural. My boss told me after my brother's first month, "You two must have grown up competitive. He's got that hunger." I laughed it off. He was always the one who wanted to win every argument at the dinner table. My boss smiled. "That's exactly the kind of energy we need in client development." I should have heard the alarm bells then. I didn't. For the first year, things seemed fine. My brother and I actually worked well together. We'd grab lunch, joke about our mom calling us both every Sunday with unsolicited career advice, and I genuinely felt proud I'd helped him land somewhere solid. He was moving up in client development. I was handling strategy and operations, clean lanes. Then things shifted. Subtly at first, the way a crack in a wall starts as a hairline and you tell yourself it's nothing. I noticed he started staying late for meetings I wasn't invited to. He'd casually mention conversations with the boss that I had no context for. He started CCNG himself on emails between my team and upper management. None of it was a fire alarm on its own, but every single move was deliberate. The first moment I can point to, the one that should have made me slam the brakes, was a Thursday afternoon in November. I walked past the small glass-walled conference room near the owner's office and saw my brother sitting across from him, laughing like they were old college friends. On the whiteboard behind them was a framework. My framework. The Q1 client retention model I had been developing for 2 months. I knocked and stepped in. "Hey, sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to check in on the Q1 planning." My boss looked up, surprised. "Oh, your brother was just walking me through a really smart retention approach. You two been collaborating on this." I looked at my brother. He held my gaze without flinching. "Yeah, we've been bouncing ideas. I figured I'd bring it over since I had some time." That was it. No guilt. No hesitation. Just a clean, easy lie delivered with a smile. I said nothing in that moment. I smiled, said great, and walked out. But something in my chest hardened. I pulled my brother aside after the meeting. We stood by the stairwell, and I kept my voice flat. "That was my work." He shrugged. I added to it. "You presented it without telling me, without my name on it." "Relax," he said. "We're on the same team. Does it really matter whose name is on the slide?" The thing about entitled people is they genuinely believe what they're saying. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't apologetic. He was annoyed I was even bringing it up. I walked away from that conversation with one clear thought. This is not going to stop on its own. Over the following weeks, I started paying closer attention. I kept detailed records of every project, timestamping everything, building a paper trail. Call it instinct. Call it paranoia. I call it having grown up with a brother who stole the last slice of pizza and then told our mom I wasn't hungry anyway. Dark humor aside, something bigger was building. I just didn't know yet how far he was willing to go, or how much he had already set in motion behind my back. The next move landed about a month later, and it came from a direction I didn't see coming. My boss called me into his office on a Wednesday morning. His demeanor was careful, not hostile, just measured. Like he was trying to work something out. "I need to ask you something directly," he said. "Are you looking for other opportunities?" I sat up straighter. "What? No. Where is this coming from?" He leaned back. "Someone told me you've been interviewing, that you had a second round with a firm downtown last week." "That's not true." He nodded slowly. "I believe you, but I wanted you to hear what was being said." He didn't name the source. He didn't have to. There was exactly one person who would benefit from planting that seed, and he sat 3 offices down from mine. I kept my expression neutral, thanked my boss for being direct, and left. But when the door closed behind me, my hands were tight at my sides. That evening, I confronted my brother at his car in the parking garage. No audience. Did you tell him I was interviewing somewhere else? He didn't look up from his phone. I mentioned I thought you seemed disengaged lately. That's not the same thing. You told him I had a second-round interview. He finally looked at me. I said I'd heard something. I was looking out for the company. You were looking out for yourself. He leaned against his car and crossed his arms. Look, if you can't handle a little internal competition, maybe you're checked out. That was dirty trick number 1. Planting doubt about my loyalty to quietly weaken my standing with the owner. It was calculated and clean. And the worst part, it almost worked. My boss became slightly more reserved with me afterward. The easy access I'd had to strategic conversations started requiring more effort. My brother, meanwhile, was being pulled into more senior discussions. Dirty trick number 2 came 3 weeks later. A major client, one I had personally signed and managed for 4 years, was up for contract renewal. I had built the entire proposal myself. 40 slides, pricing strategy, a 3-year roadmap. I saved it to the shared drive the night before the presentation, the way I always did. The morning of the meeting, my file was gone. In its place sat a near-identical version. Same structure, different font. My brother's name in the header. I walked into that meeting with a printed copy of the file metadata and a very calm face. When my brother finished presenting, I raised my hand. I think there's been a mix-up. This document is based on my work. I have the file creation timestamps and version history if anyone wants to review them. The room went quiet. My boss looked at my brother. Is that accurate? My brother didn't skip a beat. We collaborated. I reformatted and finalized it for the presentation. You deleted my version from the shared drive, I said. I moved it to clean up the folder. My boss said he'd review the server logs and we'd discuss it offline. The meeting moved on. But the damage to my brother's credibility had begun. Small, like a hairline fracture. Nobody said anything, but people noticed. I laid out a clear, factual account to my boss afterward. No emotion, just timestamps and documentation. He listened carefully. I'll look into it, he said. I appreciate you bringing this the right way. 2 weeks later, my boss called a company-wide meeting. He stood at the front of the room and said something that changed everything. After a lot of thought, I've decided to move towards selling Meridian. I'm ready to transition out. I want to make sure this company goes to someone who'll keep building on what we've all created. The room buzzed. I sat very still. After the meeting, my brother found me in the hallway with a grin I still think about. I've already been talking to him, he said. For weeks. He's considering a partner-to-owner transition, and I put together a full acquisition proposal. You've been planning this without telling me. Why would I tell you? It's a business deal. He straightened his jacket. Face it, you'll always be the worker bee. I'm the partner now. I didn't say a word. I walked back to my desk, sat down, and opened my laptop. Here's what my brother didn't know. 3 months earlier, before any of this had started spiraling, my boss had mentioned offhand over lunch that he was thinking about the company's future. He'd said something I had filed away without realizing how important it would become. Whoever buys this place needs to actually understand it from the inside. I understood it from the inside better than anyone alive. I spent the next 72 hours running numbers. I had savings, not by a company's savings on their own, but enough for a serious down payment and a compelling offer structure. I had 2 former colleagues who were now small fund investors. I had kept those relationships warm for years. I called both of them that week. The first call took 40 minutes. By the end of it, my contact said, "Send me the numbers. I'm interested." The second call took 20. "You've been there 6 years. You know this operation cold. Let's talk terms." Within 8 days, I had the scaffolding of a real acquisition offer together. But on day 6, my brother played his third and most desperate move. He called my wife. She came home that evening and looked at me carefully across the dinner table. "Your brother called me today. I put down my fork. What did he say? He told me you've been stressed at work, that you've been making impulsive financial decisions. He said he was worried and thought I should know. She paused. He specifically mentioned you were planning to put a large amount of money into something risky. I stared at the table for a moment. He was trying to get you to pump the brakes, she said. I figured that out about 2 minutes in. I looked at her, and she shrugged. I told him we make financial decisions together, and that you're the most careful person I know when it comes to risk. Then I hung up. Calling my wife to manipulate the situation from the home front was his most desperate move yet. He was running out of plays and still didn't understand who he was dealing with. I submitted my acquisition offer to my boss's attorney on a Thursday afternoon. The offer was clean, well-structured, and included a 3-year strategic vision for the company. My investors were named. My financing was confirmed and documented. My boss called me the same evening. This is serious, he said. I know this company, I told him. I've helped build it. I'm not here to run it into the ground. There was a pause. Your brother submitted an offer too. His financing has already fallen through twice. He keeps telling me it'll come together. I let that sit. Mine hasn't fallen through, I said. The due diligence process took 6 weeks. Both parties had submitted letters of intent, and the seller's attorney was conducting proper disclosure reviews, standard procedure under U.S. acquisition law. My financing held. My investors stayed in. Every document was clean. My brother's offer, I later confirmed, had been built on a handshake commitment from a contact who pulled out on day 3 of due diligence. He tried to restructure it twice. He couldn't. On a Tuesday morning in late January, I signed the purchase agreement. Meridian Creative Group had a new owner. I sat in my car in the parking lot for about 5 minutes afterward. Just quiet. Then I went inside. I had asked my boss to make no announcement until I was ready to address the team. He respected that. The first call I made was to HR, to schedule a formal meeting that afternoon. My brother had no idea what the meeting was about. He assumed it was a general announcement about the ownership transition. He walked into the conference room relaxed, coffee in hand, and stopped when he saw it was just me sitting at the head of the table. Sit down, I said. What is this? Sit down. He sat slowly. What's going on? As of this morning, I am the new owner of Meridian. HR is present, as you can see. We're going to talk about your employment. The color drained from his face. You're not serious. I've reviewed your conduct over the past several months. The misrepresentation of my work as your own. The deletion and replacement of project files, documented in server logs. The false report to the owner about my job search. The personal call to my wife to interfere with a private financial decision. That was. I'm not finished. I kept my voice level. These are documented, provable violations of company policy. HR has reviewed all of it. You can't fire your own brother. You're right, I said. I can't fire my brother, but I absolutely can terminate an employee who stole work, manipulated leadership, and tried to undermine a colleague through personal channels. Those are 2 entirely separate things. He leaned forward. You owe me. I'm family. There it was. The final card. The one entitled people always believe is an ace. Family doesn't delete my files, I said. Family doesn't call my wife to sabotage me. You made business decisions. I'm making one back. He was terminated that afternoon with 2-week severance and a separation agreement that included a non-disparagement clause. His system access was revoked by end of business. He tried twice to reach the former owner to contest the decision. The former owner told him both times that it was no longer his company to weigh in on. My brother called me that night. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message equal parts anger and guilt trip with a closing thread of, Mom is going to hear about this, which is honestly the most on-brand thing he has ever done in his life. The nuclear option. The corporate world's most feared weapon. My mom did call. It was a hard conversation. I told her what happened. Not everything, but enough. She went quiet for a long time. I always thought you two would figure it out, she said. So did I told her. Within 3 months of taking ownership, I promoted 2 people my brother had been quietly blocking from advancement. The client whose renewal proposal he had stolen is still with us, locked in on a new 3-year contract. The company is doing well. Entitled people believe the world will keep reshaping itself around them. My brother had been testing that theory his whole life. Small rewrites of reality, small manipulations, and everyone around him absorbing it because a fight wasn't worth it. I stopped being easy. If this story hit different, subscribe because unlike my brother, my next move definitely won't get you fired.